Well, good day, all. Ira Epstein with your financial market wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for Monday, and I am back in town. It is the 22nd of May, 2023, 7:55 p.m., so I'm late. I did this earlier, but the quality of it wasn't where we wanted it, so I'm redoing it. So at 6:20 today, p.m. Central Time tonight, I'm listening to House Speaker McCarthy, and I'm listening to the questions from the press as he walked out of the meeting with the president. And very good that it was open, it was candid, it was honest, respectful, wonderful. But then the questions came in about first taxes. Will he agree to any tax increases? Nope. Will he agree to any further spending increases? Nope. If anything, he went into a litany as to why it has to actually come down, how high it is relative to where it's been. It has to get back under 20% of GDP, blah, blah, blah. When asked, is he going to waive the 3-day rule that exists in the House where whatever's agreed to, assuming something gets agreed, that the members get 3 days? Nope. Going to keep that. Okay. So I started wondering, what is he going to give in on? And I don't see that there's anything there to make a deal from the Democrats' point of view. So I'm not convinced we're getting the whole story. Second part to me, when I went away, I did not look at the markets. I promised myself I wouldn't, and I didn't. That didn't mean I didn't think about things, and I came to a conclusion that helped me. The stock market's in its own world right now. Bad news is bull news. The debt ceiling, who would think the market keeps rallying in front of it when they have not made headway? The market, just like it did in the Fed hikes, will look for the event where it's going to end and it's just going to rally. If you get caught in that, terrific. But what it does is it definitely impacts you in the wrong way in understanding how to be trading the metal markets, what to do in the bullishness about the dollar, the bearishness of the bonds and notes. And I think that's ultra, ultra important. Why? Because it masks things. And you start saying, well, how can I be bearish those if the stock market keeps rallying? The market is saying that this is not going to be that bad of an event, that I want to be long gold. Well, that's $100 to go over the peak already of it. So you got to walk away from that. That's the thing that I walked away in understanding. The stock market's in its own world. It's going to do whatever it wants to do, how it wants to do it. Not everything is bullish about it, but overall, it keeps rallying. Are the patterns easy to trade in it? Probably near impossible, but it's where it's at. Energy markets trying to pick up here. We have a meeting coming up in about 10, 15 days where OPEC's going to meet again. Will they cut? Don't know. But every report I see about Russia says they have not cut their oil. They can't be making those amount of shipments and doing what they're doing for that. So it's easy to lie. It's very hard when you look at the numbers to prove anything different. They need the money. They're getting it. They're selling it at a deep discount. They're not making the money they would make, but they're making money and they got to fund their war. When you and I take a look at the S&P, and this is the part that I went away, if you look at a weekly chart, you just keep coming up. This whole market has been saying for a while here that guess what? If you go on the weekly charts, from when the Fed began raising rates, they won't keep raising rates, and the market as a whole has rallied during that time frame. This is last summer. You bottomed out, and we have gone up on rate hike, rate hike, rate hike. I know it's hard to understand it, but gee, every now and then a light goes off in your head and you go, why am I fighting that? And don't get me wrong, fighting it means letting it influence you on other markets. Whatever this is going to do, it's going to do. You have the pattern of higher lows, higher highs. You have a market that is over the 18-day average of closes bullish. So you got the bias up, you got the trend up, higher lows, higher highs. The resistance is the Bollinger Band. It keeps showing itself to be that. Assume that'll be it, but don't think that's where a bear begins from. Rather think that's what the pros use to take off when it gets too rich in price to take money off, and then the market falls back, and they'll match it up with if you embed or if the market just gets overbought. That's how I'm viewing it, and that's where I'm going to stay with it. The NASDAQ is a better story. Why? because it's all about artificial intelligence. It's all about the tech companies. The market is convinced this is the next big thing, the real big thing, sort of like getting a smartphone. It really believes that, and I see it. And you can see how the market just keeps marching up with the embedded reading. This market is a buy on breaks until it's no longer embedded. When you come to the Dow, no, too many industrial stocks here, and you don't get the play that you have in the other indices. You got a higher high, lower low, literally going nowhere for the time being. And you can argue in the Russell that up until the end of last week, it too was fighting at the 18-day average. It finally caved in. And now the market is rushed up to the upper Bollinger Band, overbought, but no longer fighting that battle where time and time again what the market did, and I'll take you to that up until last week, and this on a daily basis. We come back, and you see it right here. Kept fighting. When it finally got through things, this is Wednesday of last week, that began the uptrend. It went up to the upper Bollinger Band, overbought. I'm not looking for it to go very far from there, but you can see what's going on. Gee, again, the light goes off in your head. Now, bonds and notes. Why would you want to be long when you still have, number one, no resolution in the debt ceiling? If the market goes into a state of default, you could be down here before you know what's going on. They're going to just add to what you'd pay on interest rates. They will shoot up. Nobody's going to want to lend money. So to get it, you're going to pay through the nose. That makes sense, what's going on. 5-year makes sense with what's going on. Then you get to the dollar. It'll be the best of a terrible event. And that's what's driving the dollar higher. So I'm not saying you have to play them, don't play them, but it makes sense if you understand what is going on. Yes, we will hear down the road here what's going to happen with the Fed, but the Fed's a backseat story now. If you get a default, I don't see the Fed raising rates. It's a backseat story. It won't take front and center until we know what's going on with the debt ceiling. So get that off your head and understand the impact of the debt ceiling and what it's doing to the currency markets, what it's doing to the interest rates, and that's why they continue to fall down here. You don't want to own those. You want to own things and flip-flop if you get to the debt ceiling agreement. Now, what did we hear Mr. McCarthy say? He didn't say there wouldn't be an extension. He said that he would view an extension as a failure. Well, Mr. McCarthy, from what I heard you say no to at 6:20 today, which was everything, how do you do a deal? There's got to be some give here. You can't get it all to win, all right? So what I'm saying is it's one thing to come out in the press conference, say publicly things because it's posturing for a deal, we hope. But if not, as much as it's a failure to have an extension, I say that we won't see a default. I say that you'll head to a failure if the actual event is what he said in that short news conference at 6:20 p.m. on Bloomberg. That's my take on it. In the British pound, down, oversold. But every currency against the dollar is down, and most of them oversold. Bitcoin just not getting a bid in front of the debt ceiling. People are scared of the strength in the dollar. Is this taking on anything good? I don't know. It certainly hasn't gone with the NASDAQ. You can't argue that. When you come to Brent versus WTI crude, you're back to the 390 level where both prices are sort of in no man's land right here. You're climbing a little bit, but you're very overbought. You could go up there, but what's going to drive it? Certainly, if there's no deal on the debt ceiling, this is overpriced. If there's a deal and we miraculously come away, which I think we'll do, without a default, and we finally get to whatever we're going to have, well, then the world has to ask, is the Fed going to go into a pause? If it is, does that help the economy? But the one thing that I walked away with, if you're going to have a default and you go there, what makes you think the Fed is going to keep raising rates? Doesn't matter if you go into the default because everything's going to go bananas on you if that happens. In WTI, you can see you're about neutral. You've had a bear market rally back to the 18-day average, got overbought in the process. You're in a resistance area. Gasoline, why do you want to be short going into Memorial Day driving? Yes, the gas stations have bought the gasoline. They're not going to go to the cash market now, but they have to go to it later to replace, depending on how big the driving is. So that's what the market's looking at. And our price counts met their downside targets. Now they have some upside targets. They're a little further away from this. So I'm certainly no longer in the down camp. And in the nat gas, I think the market bottomed out in this area here, trying to hold on. So to me, the important thing, and maybe not to you, but to me, is I went away and I had an understanding. And that was absolutely in the way of me grabbing an idea. I can see the gold going here, like I just said, lower. I can see all these markets under pressure if the Democrats and Republicans can't reach a deal. I don't buy and don't believe what Mr. McCarthy fully said, because he gave in on nothing. If he's giving in on nothing, then you're expecting that the Democrats will be so scared that they will just cave in and not allow the default. I'm not saying that can't happen. It doesn't sound like a good negotiation, though, to find that out. I'm Ira Epstein. I will see you all tomorrow. You have a good evening.